So, today's deep dive is really looking at a massive shift happening in modern weddings right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating cultural pivot, honestly.
Right, and we're basing this on a comprehensive guide from the Canadian platform Weddizer. And, usually a wedding is just this incredibly rigid, mass-produced script.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone knows the template.
Exactly. You book the venue, you pick out the white dress, you walk down the aisle to like a classical string quartet, and then the officiant just reads the standard legal boilerplate.
It's basically an assembly line.
Yeah, but today we're seeing couples intentionally colliding those old European traditions with ancient indigenous rituals.
Right, which is a massive logistical and frankly emotional undertaking.
It really is. So, okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how couples are pulling this off, without the whole thing turning into a disjointed, chaotic mess.
Because the risk of it feeling totally disjointed is huge.
Yeah.
But we are looking at a fundamental shift in how people express their identity and their history.
Right.
I mean, we've spent decades treating that standard European wedding template as the absolute default, you know?
Yeah, like it's the only way to get married.
Exactly. And what the Weddizer Guide really illustrates is that modern couples in Canada are finally pausing the machinery of the wedding industry to just ask if that default actually represents who they are.
Which is such a vital question. I mean, if you are listening to this, imagine standing at the threshold of starting a totally new family unit.
Right.
If one half of the couple has deep indigenous roots and the other has European heritage, defaulting purely to that European white wedding template effectively erases half of the new family story.
Before the marriage even begins.
Yes, you're literally sidelining an entire lineage just to make, like, the catering schedule easier.
Which is tragic, really. And that's why the core motivation driving these couples is the active honoring of both family histories.
It's about respect.
Exactly. They want to reflect Canada's broader, diverse national identity, sure, but more intimately, they are trying to look their elders in the eye and prove that both histories will be part of the future they're building.
Yeah, because a wedding is fundamentally a threshold moment.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, by blending these traditions, the couple is actively declaring what values will define their home.
It isn't just about the two people standing at the altar.
No, not at all. It's about taking two separate, massive family trees and grafting them together into a shared narrative.
But, I mean, that raises a massive logistical problem because when you say indigenous traditions, that is not a monolith.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't just go online and order a pan-indigenous wedding package.
No, you definitely can't.
The guide shows that couples are having to navigate very specific tribal traditions, like maybe it's Cree or Anishinaabe or Haida protocol.
And that specificity is actually the hardest part to execute, but it is also the most important.
Right, because otherwise it's just generic.
Yeah, couples aren't just sprinkling vague cultural aesthetics over a standard wedding. They are doing the rigorous work of identifying the precise traditions of their specific ancestors.
And then finding a way to make them speak to the European customs of their partner's ancestors.
Exactly.
It makes me think of an analogy. Like, a standard modern wedding is kind of like a mass-produced suit.
Okay, I like that.
It fits okay, it looks fine off the rack, but it lacks personality. Whereas these multicultural unions, they're more like a bespoke family quilt,
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
where every single patch represents a very specific ancestral story.
Right, but let's talk about the actual mechanics of sewing that quilt together because that conversation between cultures is tricky.
It really is, because here's where it gets really interesting. My immediate fear, just looking at this on paper, is that you end up with a cultural Frankenstein.
Yeah, a lot of people worry about that.
Like, you have a formal European procession, a classical string quartet playing, and then suddenly someone is smudging sacred herbs, and it just feels like two completely different ceremonies awkwardly bolted together.
Right, it can feel like a jarring collision.
So how does the Weddizer Guide suggest couples prevent that disjointed feeling during the ceremony itself?
Well, it really comes down to identifying the underlying mechanisms of the rituals rather than just looking at their outward aesthetics.
Okay, what do you mean by mechanisms?
So, for example, let's look at the officiants. In a standard template, you have one person standing at the front dictating the pace, right?
Yeah, the person with the clipboard.
Exactly. But in these blended ceremonies, couples are actually utilizing dual officiants.
Wait, really?
Yeah, you have a traditional officiant who handles the European and legal structures, standing right alongside an indigenous elder.
Wait, how did that actually work in practice? Who speaks when?
It's a dance, really.
Do they just take turns reading different scripts?
Yeah.
Because that seems like it would just double the length of the ceremony and just highlight the differences even more.
No, it's actually much more fluid than taking turns. They share the space by focusing on their respective areas of spiritual authority.
Okay, break that down for me.
So the elder might open the space with a smudging ceremony. They'd use sacred herbs like sage, cedar, sweetgrass, or tobacco to physically and spiritually cleanse the area.
To clear out any negative energy.
Exactly, and invite positive intentions. And they might follow that up with a land acknowledgement, rooting the ceremony in the deep history of the physical earth they're standing on.
Grounding the whole event.
Right. And once the space is grounded, the traditional officiant might step in to guide the couple through the European elements, like the spoken vows or the legal declarations.
Ah, I see. So they aren't competing for microphone time.
No, not at all.
They're basically laying down different tracks of the exact same song. The elder sets the spatial and spiritual foundation, and the officiant builds the formal structure on top of it.
That's a perfect way to describe it. And you actually see that same layering in the music and the movement, too.
Like the procession.
Yeah. During the formal European procession, that highly structured walk down the aisle, couples are mixing European classical music with the heartbeat rhythm of indigenous drumming.
Oh, wow. At the same time.
Yes. They aren't playing a Mozart piece and then stopping awkwardly to let a drum play. The drum provides the foundational pulse, and the classical strings provide the melody.
That sounds incredibly powerful when it works. But what about the specific rituals that couples actually perform?
Well, they look for overlap.
Because, for instance, the European ring exchange is so ingrained in our minds as, like, the definitive moment a wedding happens.
Right, you hear wedding and you think of rings.
Yeah. If you place that right next to an indigenous community participation ritual, do they clash?
They only clash if you don't understand the underlying intention of the rituals.
Okay.
When you strip away the metal of the ring and the spoken words of the elder, the mechanisms of these rituals align perfectly.
So what is the shared mechanism there?
Think about it. What is the European ring exchange actually doing? It's a physical demonstration of eternity and unbroken commitment, symbolized by a circle.
Right. The unbroken loop.
Exactly. Now look at indigenous sacred teachings or elder blessings. These frequently involve the sharing of traditional stories or participating in a circular community ritual.
Oh, another circle.
Yes, it ties the couple to the eternal lineage of their ancestors and their responsibilities to their people. Both rituals are hyper-focused on eternity, unity, and community responsibility.
Wow.
The circle of the ring means forever. The elder's blessing means forever.
So it's basically a translation of the same deeply held human desires, just into two different physical languages happening simultaneously.
Exactly. And when a couple understands that shared core meaning, the rituals echo each other instead of competing.
The intention acts as the glue.
It really does. And the source material notes that couples are even taking European hand fasting rituals, where the couple's hands are physically bound together with cloth and incorporating indigenous textiles into it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Or they bring community participation into that specific moment. The visual of European and indigenous fabrics being physically knotted together is a very literal representation of what is happening abstractly.
I love that. But, if the ceremony is this deeply spiritual, grounded event, how on earth do they transition to a modern reception without it feeling like an abrupt genre shift?
Yeah, that transition is tough.
Because you go from a sacred smudging ceremony to, like, a dinner hall with a DJ. That seems like an aesthetic whiplash.
It definitely can be if it's not planned right.
Like, what do they even wear that fits both of those environments?
The visual integration requires an immense amount of thought, to be honest. In terms of bridal fashion, the Weddizer source notes a strong movement of maintaining classic European silhouettes.
You mean like the big white dresses?
Right. The structured, corseted, white lace gowns that represent a very specific era of European formality, but they are heavily modifying them with indigenous elements.
Meaning they aren't just, like, wearing two different outfits and doing a wardrobe change.
No, they are physically modifying the European dress. You see intricate, nation-specific indigenous beadwork woven directly into the European lace.
Oh, wow. So it's a true blend.
Yeah, or you might have a bride wearing a highly formal Western gown, but underneath she is wearing traditional handcrafted moccasins.
That's amazing.
And they are also wearing handcrafted family heritage jewelry that carries specific ancestral storytelling. It brings the weight of their lineage right into the formal European aesthetic.
And I imagine the grooms are doing something
Oh,
similar.
absolutely. Grooms are taking classic tailored European suits or tuxedos, which is, the absolute peak of Western formal wear, and elevating them.
How so?
They incorporate handmade beaded accessories or maybe custom cufflinks crafted by indigenous artisans. Sometimes they even integrate traditional textiles or cultural symbols into the lining of the suit itself. The fashion becomes a literal map of their combined ancestry.
That is so cool. And I assume that spills over into the physical space they inhabit for the reception, too.
It has to, yeah.